must be playing defensive. Schmeichel's not coming up for this one. Thinks he's done enough.
Is this their moment? It's a Sheringham, and Solskjaer's won it! Manchester United have reached the promised land. Ole Solskjaer, 272, have scored the 2 goals in stoppage time.
4,
And the
3,
treble looms
2,
large.
1.
Hello and welcome to the United Community Podcast, and we are back with another podcast, and it's a good time to be a United fan at the moment, so it is. Plenty to talk about tonight. Of course, we're going to go deep in on Manchester United. Loads of positives the last couple of weeks since the return of domestic football after the World Cup. We're going to talk about United's restart and how good it's been. We're going to talk about the importance of clean sheets because United are keeping a lot of them lately, and maybe the impact that that's having on giving us a good platform to go on and win games. We're also going to talk about the fact that United's squad is or isn't thin. We're going to talk about that. Do we need to buy or loan in January? And closing the gap. Can Manchester United actually challenge for the Premier League title? We're going to talk about that. Plenty more to talk about outside of United as well. City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Spurs, Newcastle, Liverpool, all dropping points since the restart. So we're going to get into that as well. And we're going to talk a little bit about the other end of the table. And the big talking points at the moment really is in relation to Everton. Obviously, big pressure coming on them. Can they actually get relegated? And is Lampard's job, is it up for grabs, or is he going to get the sack? We'll talk about. But we have the usual suspect on the case to talk about Everton as well. Ricey is with us in that lovely front room that you have on the screen. How you doing, man?
All good, Jack. All good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, man. Appreciate you joining us. Good to see so many people in as well. We have Chris, Twigs, Sully is there. Good to see you guys. Get your thoughts and opinions into the chat as well. But we'll dive straight into it. And let's talk Manchester United, of course. And it's been an absolutely fantastic restart to the campaign for Manchester United since the World Cup ended. United are unbeaten, and they've basically either closed the gap on teams ahead of them, Arsenal, City, Newcastle, and they've extended the gap on the likes of Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs, things like that as well. Obviously, me as a United fan, I'm happy at the moment. It's great to see. Obviously, Ricey, you're not a United fan, so I'm interested to get your opinion, as an outsider looking in, how much United have improved, or maybe I've just stayed consistent since the break of the World Cup and on after it. What do you think?
Yeah, look, as a neutral there, I would see it as United. The way to look at it for the minute, take baby steps. The way to look at it for the minute, I'd say you're after gaining good ground on the top four, more so than looking at a potential title challenge yet. And that's not to say that there's not a potential title challenge. You want to get through the next 5 games, then you can start there to dream. You're a United fan, you're always going to want to look at a title, massive club. But I would say take it one game at a time, keep winning that game, keep chipping away at that top 4. You're already after putting distance between yourself and Spurs there. I don't know what's after happening to Spurs. They're just such you think
they're just Spurs, really, aren't they?
Yeah, they're doing the Spurs. I don't know, do you say get rid of Conte? I really don't know. I see links during the week, not links, people talking on Twitter, and they're saying, bring back Poch. Is that a good move? But just back to United, you're 5 points clear, 17 games played, you're 5 points clear of Spurs, 7 clear of Liverpool. It gives you that bit of leeway. You don't ever want to predict a slip. But if a game does come along, you can kind of afford to have that bit of leeway. Well, not in a title challenge now. But as I said, I was just looking up there, United's next few games, City at home, Arsenal away, Palace at home, Leeds away, Leicester at home. City, Arsenal, their games that say in themselves, they're both ahead of Palace at home, should be 3 points. Leeds away, it's one of the tougher places for you to go. Derby game. You have Leicester at home then, who Leicester are playing poorly at the minute, but thrown right in the middle of that in the space of an 8-day period, Sunday to Sunday, is Barcelona. I think it could come back to bite Man United in the arse for not getting that top spot in that Europa League group.
Yeah.
Just because that's such a dirty fixture in the middle. But look, again, I'm after going on a bit of a ramble there. We'll go back to your last 4 fixtures.
If you were in that situation, just before we go on to that,
Yeah.
if you were in that situation about, with United, would you be overly disappointed about getting knocked out of the Europa League early stages because you'll have a game a week?
I would nearly want to get knocked out. Like, no club wants to get knocked out of I wouldn't. Why? What are you going to gain from it? Realistically, you'll probably get scotched somewhere along the line anyway. So you could get to a semi-final, final and lose it. No way. I'd be concentrating on that top 4, see how the next few games pan out, and it could turn into a title race. Like, even a second, third place finish, you'd be happy. Just going back on the last few games there.
Yeah.
I'll go back, start with the Burnley game. Like, I know it's only League Cup. As you said, you started off there with a clean sheet. 4 games, 4 wins. I know, again, the League Cup doesn't have massive bearing. You'd like to pick it up. It doesn't matter if you do or you don't.
Of course.
But 3 wins, 7 goals conceded. I think on the last podcast there, I was saying to you, as a neutral, I would think United would take 7 points from them games. Just saying that the Wolves away is a bit of a dirty fixture.
Could have been a tricky one, yeah.
It could have been. And look, geez, it wasn't all plain sailing either. But you're after picking up 9 points there, 3 wins, 7 goals scored, none conceded. Rashford's after scoring 4 and 4.
Yeah.
Like, he's really after opening up Rashford here. I don't know what he's after doing. Rashford's after forgetting about the kids, concentrating on his football. And he just seems to be flying it. I think that little stint in the World Cup done him the world of good, bringing him, getting his goal, getting on.
And maybe the fact that he wasn't overly played in the World Cup either. I mean, looking back on it now in hindsight, how stupid was Southgate not to play him, not to start him.
Yeah, look, it's easy to say that, really, isn't it? But he seems to be, he's flying on confidence. Even the way he handled the media the other day when he slept in, look, that can happen to anybody. I know if you're a professional footballer, like we could sleep in for work, never really happens. But
yeah,
look, you have to take it as that's the honest thing that happened. But he dealt with it well. He came on, he scored the winner. Like, that could end up being a massive win, that against Wolves.
Yeah, and I mentioned it on the watch along the other night. These kind of games, they're the games at the end of the year that you might necessarily remember in terms of performances. But if you look back on the results on a sheet of paper, you'd say, if you do get top 4, or you do, if somehow or another we end up in a title race, which I don't think we will, you look back on them games going, they were good points to be getting on the board. You know what I mean?
And look, it can all fall back to, I know, if ye had won the first 2 games of the season, ye would be sitting pretty in second in a title race. In the midst of a title race, ye would be 5 points ahead of City. City would have a game in hand. If they won that, you'd be 2 points clear of City. Ye would be in the middle of a title race if you won. Yeah. But the only thing is, the 2 teams that did beat ye, they were shocks that they bet you. The 2 teams themselves are having very good seasons. They're
exactly. They've gone on to have some very good results.
It's not as if Nottingham Forest bet you there, or Everton, teams that are like struggling down the bottom big time. The 2 teams that bet you are actually having very good seasons. But it's just a little thing I thought of earlier on. I just added up the points in my head and I was like, if United had won them, and another team you lost to Villa, who are just so hit and miss, mediocre, but they have the capability of doing that to some of the so-called bigger sides.
Yeah, well, correct me if I'm wrong now, but United, maybe not all the time, but seem to get it more than anyone else, that they end up playing a team when they have a new manager. And you had the new manager bounce against Villa. Who was the last one we had?
Is the Wolves manager new?
I think the Wolves manager is new now. He's had a couple of games.
Yeah, relatively new,
Relatively new. And we could potentially be playing an Everton side on Friday night, depending on what happens with Frank Lampard. You just don't know.
I don't know.
It seems to happen to United more than anyone else.
Everton are in the middle of building a stadium, aren't they?
They are, yeah. Out on
the docks. I don't know, Stanley Docks or something. I don't like. I know they have to make a call here because the Premier League is everything, but like, if they were to sack Lampard, I'm assuming they'd be throwing him out 4 or 5 million payoff there. If they wanted to get a manager that's in another club, they'd have to be paying him 4 or 5 million. It's not a cheap business there. But do you stick or twist? Like, I don't know if it's all down to Lampard either. Again,
we'll get on to Everton. We'll get on to
Everton
at the end. Yeah. But I want to go back to, obviously, and you mentioned it briefly there and what you were saying about United since the break of the World Cup, and even before that. And this is clean sheets. Now, obviously, me and you have played, soccer together for years. That obviously at local level, we both played in the defence. But for the first time in a long time, United, and me especially as a United fan going into games, I don't have that sense of foreboding going into a game where, something bad can happen here. What's going to, and I think that's down to the clean sheets. And we were saying an awful lot, when we came back from the break after the World Cup, that Varane and Martinez are going to miss the first couple of games. We're going to miss them. But we look at Harry Maguire and Lindelof last night. Luke Shaw's played a centre-back now as well. We continue to keep clean sheets. David De Gea is having a blinder of a season again. And I'd like to get your opinion on the kind of confidence maybe that gives teams to go forward and win games when you have a solid defence behind you.
Yeah. As you said, the clean sheets are everything. Me and you as defenders, like, I'd rather win a game 2-0 than win a game 7-1.
Yeah.
Because clean sheets are essentially they're not our goals, but like, they're what you set out to do at the match. If you don't concede, you can't lose. That simple as. There's an old Michael Owen quote for you there now. But that's the simple fact of it. The only thing as United for the last few games, you've had patchy defenses, as in they've done well, but you have Spider back in there right full. Harry Maguire came back in the last day. Who played the Burnley match? I know, was it Casemiro? Did he sit in centre-back?
Casemiro played centre-back. Yeah, that's right.
Look, you have patched it together, and it has been working. Shaw has been also rejuvenated since the World Cup. Shaw is actually having a decent season. The only thing with Shaw is he started off poorly. He brought in Malacia. Malacia hasn't got a sniff now. Is he injured, or is he just kind of...
No, he's just out of the team.
This was the hope that... but this was the hope that why he could bring in Malacia. You didn't want Malacia in there straight every game from the start of the season. If Shaw plays poorly now, there's someone to come in and push him on that bit further. His place isn't guaranteed in the team, but he's playing very well, to be fair. The only thing I would say, again, you're now in the top 4, don't get too ahead of it. Take every game as it comes. Same as with your defense. When you look back over your previous games, you have 4 clean sheets since Christmas. You can only beat what's in front of you. You did only play Burnley, Forest, Wolves, and Bournemouth. And on the praise I'm giving you for keeping the clean sheets, you didn't play Cities. You didn't come up against Harry Kane's, even though he's out of form. You didn't come up against some of the bigger sides. Bournemouth, good win the other day. Liverpool still bet them 9-0 at the start of the season. Like, these are teams that you should be beating, and these are teams that you should be keeping clean sheets against when you're going for the top 4. But look, take nothing from it. They've played and defended very well.
I think a lot of it has to do with, and as obviously, United fan looking at him the last few years, crying out for a central defensive midfielder, and obviously we all know how well Casemiro is doing since he came in. And I think that has a lot to do with it as well. You even look at there last night, or was it last night or the night before the game we played? And, you had, when the starting 11 was named, it was giving me shivers of Solskjaer, Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Lindelof, and Shaw. And I was just going, oh my God, But I think the Casemiro effect in front of him just makes some difference. When you have that, CDM in front of you that's protecting your back 4, giving you that extra layer of defense, I just think it's absolutely invaluable.
I think Casemiro oozes confidence as well, and class, really. Like, he can smash a lad in a tackle. He just does his simple passes. He's not trying to ping balls in over the top. He's not like, let me say such, and this isn't taking anything from him. He's almost doing a single role there that before you may have, like, he pulled Ericsson back. He played in the 6 sometimes. And then you had to have Fred and Max Sauce in there too. I know you still play the double pivot, like you have your 4-2-3-1. That's still the formation in play, but it allows you only really have 1-6 in front of the fence there. It allows the other to push on. Casemiro's kind of almost like a glue there now. I also think since Casemiro has come in, that has given Bruno this new sense of freedom, that Bruno is actually coming back to himself. I was reading a thing the other day where Bruno says that he actually feels he's playing better now than he did when he was first with United, even though he isn't putting up the numbers that he put up at the start. So this has given him, Casemiro overall, I think, has taken a lot of pressure off other players because he's come in as like a multiple Champions League winner, big name, not a massive price tag, big price tag. What was it, 60 million?
Yeah, something like 65.
I was listening to a thing just on TalkSport the other day, just going on, and I forget who was talking about it, Cundy or something like that. They don't always talk sense, but sure, I probably don't at the best of times. But they were just saying with the likes of, say, Declan Rice, they're like, you can get, they were just saying going through his World Cup, they're like, Declan Rice got through the World Cup, people saying, oh, he had a brilliant World Cup and all. But did he? As in, he goes out there, he does a job, pass it sideways and this, but like, does he create anything? Look at the impact that Casemiro has since he came to United. Yeah, Casemiro might be 7 years his elder, but still, if you want Declan Rice, you're paying 100 million plus. You got Casemiro, and you have Casemiro now for at least another 3 years. You know, he can play that role there till he's 34, 35.
Of course he can.
But what they're saying is it worth, like, is Declan Rice anything compared to what he is? I know this isn't the debate we're getting into now, but
well, the one thing I would say about that, and it falls back on the Casemiro side of it more so than the Declan Rice side of it. And it's something that I didn't realize about Casemiro, is the fact that, you know, obviously when he's playing alongside Kroos and Modric, you know, they're the lads that are spraying balls left and right and pinging balls and creating things and stuff like that. But his range of passing, I didn't realize that he had the type of range of passing that he did, where he can pick balls out and he can keep possession quite well, and he can, you know, 1-2s in tight spaces and stuff. And I think that will add another year or two to maybe what we thought we can get out of Casemiro. If you're looking at, you know, the ball winning centre midfielder that's box to box, you're thinking, right, maybe 32, 33 at a stretch. But if you were going into a kind of a Paul Scholes type of role in the midfield where you're just dictating the play, you're taking it off the back four, you're giving it to Bruno or Ericsson or whoever it is ahead of you, you can do that till you're 36, 37 easily.
Yeah, the only thing is it's you'll come and see it. He'll definitely be here next year. A lot will come to the light at the end of next season because Casemiro will have won it all. And if he wants to not hang up his boots, but if he wants to go and play in Brazil or play in America, it's going to happen maybe around when he's 33. Do you know, if kind of he's been there, done it all. It depends what kind of hunger or fire in the belly he has. And at the minute, it looks like he has that in abundance. Like you can see the passion in his face. When he scores a goal, when he makes a tackle, he's nearly ripping the crest off the jersey. I know it's easy to do that, but it just shows the passion he has.
Yeah. He's not finished.
No, not by any means. And look, I think he's completely rejuvenated United's midfield. And look, as I said, you can dare to dream. I just wouldn't, as if I was a United fan, I wouldn't be thinking too much. I wouldn't be thinking too much about the title challenge because I wouldn't be setting myself up for a fall.
Exactly. And I'm only putting the point out there. You know, it can United challenge for the title, and of course they can. Anyone that has a mathematical chance of winning the title technically can challenge for the title. You know, can United do it? I think a lot depends on the January transfer window. I really do. I think if United have, did I read it? Are the first or second? It's Arsenal and then United, or United and then Arsenal in terms of chances created this season. And you can see our goal difference means that we're not scoring enough goals, but we're creating plenty of chances. And if you put a striker in there that can get you 20 goals a season, 30 goals a season, I don't think we're as far away as a lot of people think, you know, in relation to a good, solid title charge. And it's just about going out and getting that right player more than that, really, I think.
I do agree. As we've said many times on a lot of pods, it's very difficult to get the right player in January for the right price. I don't know what United's situation is with money. I was under the impression that you were just looking for loan signings, of which I don't know who's out there on a loan. Like I seen you the comment there on one of your TikToks, and you replied to someone and said, "I'd take Mitrovic on loan." Like,
no, I didn't.
course
I said I'd take. I didn't. I said I'd take Mitrovic.
of
I know he's
course,
not on. You're not going to get Mitrovic on loan. You're not
even going to
never
get
gonna
Mitrovic. You're not even going to get
at all.
Mitrovic for 60 million now, because it's worth more for Fulham to stay in the league.
To stay up, exactly.
But like someone like that, I don't think Mitrovic he's a big man. But again, the only thing about Mitrovic, and it's one thing I think where United lack, Mitrovic is a big man that likes crosses and all being put into the box. United aren't really a team that put good crosses into a box.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're more of a team that builds.
Like, if he were a team behind, and yeah, exactly. If he were a team like that, I think Ronaldo would still be at the club, because he's a lad in a box that will win headers all day long. So
let me ask you about this lad that's on the screen here.
Yeah.
And the potential of him maybe coming in. Obviously, now this is coming from look. We don't. Really
look, but you're getting into silly season. You're getting into silly season here, so you're going to be linked with everybody.
Yeah, but the main report we've had is that obviously João Felix wants out. Manchester United are interested in him, and obviously the figures are not matching up. So Atletico want, I think, is it 12 million plus his 6 million wages paid? So you're talking 20. You're talking close to 20 million for a 6-month loan fee, which obviously United are not stupid enough to pay. But would you take someone like him on a 6-month loan? Do you think he'd fit into the United system? Ten Hag seems to be an admirer of him if we're going for him. So
yeah, I couldn't see Atletico letting him go on loan. Like, he's going to leave Atletico permanently anyway at the summer, at the latest in the summer.
I think the big issue is that him and Simeone are after falling out.
Well, he never actually. It was a big surprise when, like, if you remember when he signed for them, people were questioning why he went there. It's completely not the football style that he plays.
Yeah, I was shocked.
Like, it's like I actually nearly almost had doubts about this lad till I seen him at the World Cup.
Yeah,
and he just shows then he can do it when played in a system.
Absolutely. I would be happy with him. If we went and got João Felix, I think he would fit into the Ten Hag system in the way that we're currently playing at the moment. I think he'd be an upgrade on Martial in the fact that he can play the false 9 role, João Felix can, and we've seen it a lot of the World Cup. He's dropping out into midfield, getting on the ball. He can then take on lads, or he can pass the ball in behind, by creating the space for, a Rashford or an Anthony or whoever it is to run into space. So I wouldn't be against signing him at all, but I do think that we need more depth in our forward line more than anywhere else, because, we see Martial again the other night going off. Now, he went off, I think he has I read somebody has a broken nose, but that shouldn't keep him out. But I mean, if you're wrapping him up in cotton wool, it's still not going to guarantee that, you're going to be getting the goals that you need throughout the season.
Yeah. United, I don't exactly know. Obviously, if every team wants an absolute goal scorer, like, I just don't know who you could get now. Like, I see him. What's your man's name? Vlahovic. Is it like these lads? Yeah,
Vlahovic.
But some of these lads that come in, like,
mercenaries,
have never played. Yeah. Like, because United are going to pay big money.
Well, that's the question that that's the question that I've had from day one, because from the start of this season, as soon as the transfer window closed in the summer, it was pretty clear that we didn't have enough up front. We needed a striker. And especially when all the Ronaldo stuff started to happen, Ronaldo wasn't playing well. It then, long story short, Ronaldo was going to leave. It was pretty certain, we were nailed on it. We needed a striker. We just needed a striker. I've been saying from day one that, should United go out and get a short-term option, and I was kind of debating whether you go for a short-term option or do you go with maybe a plan B in January if you can get him, or do you flip a coin and try and get to the end of the season with the likes of Martial.
If I was
for
United,
tier 1 in the summer, then
if I was United, I wouldn't be buying that in big now. If I was United now, and look, I'm not saying this is an option. I'd be looking at a 6-month loan. You may laugh. I'd be like, if you could get someone like Giroud on a 6-month loan deal just to stop that gap to get you through to the summer. I know you're saying Giroud.
There has been reports. There has been reports about Giroud in the last couple of days.
Has there?
I'd
be just thinking he's a fine footballer. Yeah, he's 35, maybe even a bit older. I'm not 100% sure. But you're only taking a 6-month loan deal there. If he could get it through to the summer, if he scored just 7 goals between now and the summer, it's only on loan.
I think the issue with Giroud is that he's agreed. He agreed before the World Cup to sign a new deal with AC Milan.
I didn't even know he was in. I didn't even know that was.
Yeah, I get your point.
I'm just saying that kind of style of player that has a bit of proven Premier League history. I can see there that Chris says we need a poacher. I know every team needs a poacher. Like, that's the ideal for everything. It's just coming across these lads. Very difficult to get them in January. What would you think, Jack? Would you relight a flame for Harry Kane during the summer?
I mentioned it in the live the other night. I have a feeling United are going to go for him in the summer.
Well, I have a feeling that Harry Kane, this is his very last chance to leave.
This is it.
I think he'd be 30, maybe 29, 30, maybe come the summer. But if he's 30, you'd get 3 seasons out of him
easily. We'd be putting him in the same kind of conversation as we would Casemiro. And now the only issue with Harry Kane is that he can tend to be a little bit injury prone.
I know that.
But you put him into a team, and we've seen how devastatingly effective him and Son were, when they were that kind of came through the middle, Son to the left. It was absolutely unbelievable. Now, if you get me that for 3 years of Harry Kane, through the middle, injury-free, scoring you 25 goals a season, Rashford off the left, then Anthony or Sancho when he comes back, whoever it is, I think that's title-winning forward line. I think
myself, and he's
and I think United would probably be, and I think the big question is how much could he go for, because obviously there was talk, was it last summer, not the summer gone, the summer before, of him potentially leaving. He was like 28. They were talking of 110, 120 million. If you could get him for 70, 80 million, I think there'd be a lot of teams interested in him. I really do.
He's very, sorry, what age, if, I know this has nothing to do with, what age was Teddy Sheringham when he signed for Manchester United?
Teddy Sheringham was 31 when he signed for United. He was 33 when he scored the goal in the Champions League final.
Yeah, just because you're 30 years old, you're not over the hill, especially with some of these. Like, Kane never had pace, but he has that power and prowess, if that makes sense, that he knows where the goal is. I know he's that bit of injury about him, but
he'll be 30 at the end of July.
Yeah.
I'd go for him. I really would. I'd go for him. Now, that's if, would you go for Harry Kane over an Osimhen, for example, who's absolutely ripping it up at the moment?
Who?
And obviously Osimhen for Napoli.
Don't know.
But yeah, he's absolutely tearing it up in the Champions League and in Serie A. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that, obviously it's easy for us to say, I'd go for Harry Kane over him because I obviously see Harry Kane every week playing, and we've seen him for the last 10 years scoring goals and things like that. So look, it's something that will come to the fore. Obviously, United have been linked with your man Thuram, the French international as well. There's been talks of him. His contract is up in the summer. But again, it goes down to, United going to invest money in the January transfer window.
Thuram is a decent player. He's big, he's strong, he's fast, but he's not going to be the answer to United's problems. You could bring him in, but you'd need to bring in somebody else as well, in my opinion. He's not he's, say, your grade B striker, he's not your grade A, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like will be to Spurs what Richarlison is to Kane, if that makes sense. In my opinion on that now.
Yeah.
Like if you could pick him up for free, by all means, but don't think he'd be the answer to your problems up front.
Yeah. Anyway, look, let's move it on. So, obviously, United are not the only talking point at the moment, and well, I suppose they are in relation to ours, but a lot of the teams around them have faltered since the World Cup has started. So, obviously, City have dropped points. Arsenal last night have dropped points. Chelsea have fallen off the face of the earth. Spurs have gone to dirt. Newcastle, in fairness to them, are holding in there. A great result for them last night against Arsenal. And of course, the Scousers just keep that trek into mediocrity going, which is great to see. But I want to start with Arsenal, obviously, because they played last night, Ricey. And the point I want to focus on more than anything else is Arteta. And I have a little note here called Arteta's Antics.
Look, you're always going to go in on him. You've hated him since the get-go.
I don't hate him. I just don't like him. But the question I want to ask is, so obviously he's very animated on the touchline, right? And we've seen it before with managers, Jose Mourinho, Klopp, Guardiola,
Sir Alex Ferguson
back in the day. Yeah,
don't be shy.
And the question I want to ask you is, and I was thinking about it today, I have a feeling his antics on the sideline are going to hamper Arsenal as a whole in terms of his squad. I think he's going to spook his own players if he keeps up this antics, because it seems to me, now I'm obviously from the outside, if there's any Arsenal fans in the chat, let me know what you think. But I think it's a very inexperienced Arsenal side. Don't get me wrong, they're doing absolutely fantastic. They really are. And there's never a contrast with Arteta. It's always arms flailing, giving out stink, running up and down the side, never staying in his area. I think eventually this is going to have effect on the players. I think it's going to spook them. I still maintain I don't think they're going to win the league. I still think that City are going to just go off on one of the runs. If they don't, then I think it's all in Arsenal's hands then. But I'm still going to go. I'm still sticking to City at the moment. But I'd like to get your opinion on that in terms of what he's doing on the sideline and how it may affect his team.
Yeah, I think some of it may be down to just inexperience as a first team manager, but I definitely don't agree with what you're saying with that's going to spook his players. His players work with him day in, day out. When you watch that Arsenal show that was on Netflix or on Amazon Prime, you could see he was a manager that was very involved with players. He was very excited and very animated in that show, but also cool, calm and collected behind it. People have different ways of expressing themselves on the sideline. And I'm just saying from my personal experience on a pitch, I can get very excited. It doesn't mean that I won't be level-headed. Or it doesn't mean that I'm going to spook my players that are playing beside me and all. I think it's absolute passion. I think sometimes things may go overboard and some of the things he do may be overboard, but it's none worse than what Fergie used to years ago. He'd be nearly grabbing the fourth official, trying to intimidate him. Mourinho done it for years. I don't know why people are suddenly... I seen Alan Shearer the other day getting on Arteta's back, but that's obviously because he didn't get the result he wanted with it. And some of the things, I think Arteta, when he was getting very kind of emotional, there was kind of a handball there. Things might have been going his way, but I wouldn't necessarily think that he's going to spook the players. When you're that animated on the sideline, you're inviting the press onto you, and it can, if your ship starts to sink, they can start to target you, saying, "Sure, look what you're doing." It's an easy. I'm not sure what way to kind of put it.
Yeah, but you know what I heard today, right? And this is what I want to bring it back to. And you talk about contrast. Look at Eddie Howe last night in the other dugout, just cool, calm, collected. Not giving out, not shouting and roaring. And the one big difference, and again, I was listening to it on TalkSport myself today. I'm not sure who was saying it, but they were saying about Arteta, never gives any credit to anyone else. It's always negative against either the referee, the opposition, and you look, and I went back then and looked at Eddie Howe's interview last night, and he was very complimentary towards Arteta, saying they were a great team, they play really well, and blah, blah, blah. But Arteta then just comes out and just starts giving out about referees, about Newcastle sitting back too much and all of this. I think that's the kind of aura he's given off, that can be very galvanizing to your team. It's us against the world, so I do understand that side of it as well. I just don't see a contrast between, I think it's always that way with him.
I do think in time it'll start to minute a bit with a bit more experience. Now, I'm not saying he's inexperienced. He has that, like I'm saying, just as a first team coach on the sideline. Maybe sometimes his number two maybe needs to grab him and reel him in. But I think as far as Arsenal fans and players are concerned, once he's at the top, none of them are going to give out about this.
No, absolutely not. They're going to be.
I just don't think. I think. Look, if he was 10th in the league, I don't think half the people would be paying much attention to what way he's carrying on the sideline. When you're at the top, like people just start to notice you more, try and pull you down in any way possible. What he's doing is working for him for the minute. The thing is, it could be a massive downfall for him if some of these antics kind of backfire. But I wouldn't be all against the way he carries on.
Let me ask you the question there that Shadow puts into the chat. What do we think about the refs not punishing the managers like Arteta for being out of the technical area? Now, Arteta does it to the extreme. Again, I don't want to be Arteta bashing here. Everyone knows I'm not his biggest fan. But he was nearly at the corner flag last night after they didn't get a penalty.
Yeah, I know. Look, I know it is down to passion. We've seen it over the years. We've seen it with Mourinho. We've seen it with players, even the likes of Sean Dyche. These managers, they might be running up and down, but they're screaming. They're out of the technical area. Like Conte is the same. Conte does this every game, only that Tottenham are absolutely dirt, so no one cares. But that's just the point I'm trying to put across is people only notice this about Arteta because Arsenal are doing very well. Arsenal are riding what people thought were a wave, but they're actually getting through it. And now they're at the halfway point in the season and still top.
Yeah. And let me ask you then, do you think they'll win the league?
I think they have a great chance to win the league. I'm not going to say they are going to win the league because I do. As I will say, when they were 6 games into the season, that I would like to see Arsenal win the league. I wouldn't mind seeing Arsenal win the league. But the only thing is, I still do think that their squad is very thin. That if they can stay fit, they have a real chance of winning that league. I think if they can stay fit, this may sound stupid now because there's 7 or 8 points clear of some teams, but if they can keep their squad together as it is now, I think they're the only other team, bar Man City, that can win the league.
Okay, right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Yeah, I know what you're saying. And as well, I think what's a big thing for them, if they can be within touching distance, say in April, and you're getting Jesus back from injury, for example, or March or whenever it is, it'll be a massive lift for him. I have to say, as much as I don't want Arsenal to win the title, I've been very impressed with them. And as the weeks go on and as they keep racking points up on the board, I'm getting more and more impressed with them.
But would you rather see City win the league?
Absolutely.
Would you?
Absolutely. I don't know any City fans. You know what I mean? I don't care. Little City, you know what I mean? They've won it 5 times in the last 6 years or something like that.
You keep saying little City and like trying to be little. I'm like this. City are only little till they win one Champions League.
Well, City will always be a smaller club than United. That's why they're little City.
Yeah, it's petty enough though, just being like that, and they've dominated
so
much in the last 10 years. Yeah, but it's just clinging on to what's called, really, isn't it?
Well, clinging on to what?
It's just history. History, but like they only got good. When did they get 2008? And they've
roughly
dominated the Premier League since then. But like, like what you do to City now is what you said to Liverpool for years, going on about history.
What do you mean?
No, Liverpool would be like, oh, we've the most leagues or whatever, and you'd be like, that's before the Premier League even happened and all.
Well, no one ever said that before. We were ahead of them in league titles.
No,
because the whole mantra was Alex Ferguson wanted to knock them off their perch.
Yeah,
and that was to overthrow and once we hit 19, that equaled them, and then we got, it was 18, then we got 19 and 20, I think. They'll always be Little City in my eyes, anyway.
Yeah, I know. Look, it is, but no, I just wonder, would most United fans, like, would that be a common thing?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I seen it over the last couple of years that it's not everyone now, but I reckon it is a common theme. Even when Liverpool and City were going for the title between each other, majority of United fans were happier seeing City win it than Liverpool.
Oh yeah, now I can imagine. I cannot completely understand that situation, that you'd rather City win it than them. But I was thinking you might rather Arsenal win it than City, just two clubs being into one city. But
no, because I think it's probably too close to home with us, with Arsenal, given the fact that, and
you had your battles.
There's friends of mine that are Arsenal fans that listen to this podcast, and it's nothing personal to them, but I think it's the clash that we had with Arsenal down through the years in the 90s and the 2000s. They haven't won the league since 2004. And we've obviously been going through a really barren spell at the moment as well, and things like that.
It'd be another team that you could say as well. Also, I suppose then it's another team that can say, we've won the league since United have won the league.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But again, look, they're 2 or 3 years further along in their rebuild than we are.
And look, it took, to be fair to Arsenal, it took them a long time to get here. And to be fair to the owners with Arteta, he went through patches where even the fans were calling for him to be gone. And he rode that, he got through that. And it's very unlucky with Jesus now. But say that Nketiah, so far he's done the business, but they're only 3 games in. This is where they could get very light.
Absolutely. Because there is going to be a point where they go through a sticky patch of not scoring goals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's when you need your depth in your squad, where you're bringing in maybe players who hadn't played to get to give you a dig out or whatever it is. But
and to be fair to Arsenal, they're playing a fantastic style of football.
They are.
They are playing.
They absolutely are.
They're playing very nice football. But
let's move it on. I want to move it on to Liverpool here before we reach the hour mark. Obviously, look, Liverpool aren't in the best run of form at the moment. Is it a crisis? Or should they be worrying yet?
Yeah, well, look. I think, like, to worry, I don't know to what extent, but I think every Liverpool fan knows themselves. Like, they're watching their games. Like, I don't think any Liverpool fan is going to turn around and tell you that, like, they're flying it at the minute or that they're going well at the minute. Even, like, they won the other day. Then who did they play last week? It was the 2 own goals, Leicester. Like, they played very poor. The only thing about Liverpool is it's like Klopp is trying to play Klopp ball without Klopp ball players, if that makes sense. It's just the midfield is killing them. They have world-class defense, they have a world-class goalie, and they have a world-class attack. Straight up. There's so much relying on Thiago in that middle. Like, Harvey Elliott is not up to starting in that team for them trying to challenge for a title, in my opinion. And in my opinion, Curtis Jones isn't either. Maybe coming on or starting every few games, like as if they're being blooded into it, but not starting every game. And that's not to say that in years to come they won't. They're still both very young, but there's a lot on their shoulders there. Then you go to the other extreme. Instead of having very young players there, you have, say, Milner there, who has been an excellent servant to football, an excellent servant to Liverpool. He's fit, but like, if you're putting him in the midfield against De Bruyne, and I don't want to say anything bad about Milner because he's had an unbelievable career, and
absolutely.
But
you can't be relying on a lad that's going to give you 15 games in a season, in a 50-game season.
That's the kind of emphasis that I'm putting forward. That I think it's just their midfield is killing them. Because would you say that? Would you tell me now that Liverpool's defense isn't world class as they come?
No, it's not. I don't think so.
No.
What? Well, like Van Dijk is still world class. Okay,
Wait, do you not
and if
think
you
Robertson?
Yeah, Robertson is as well. I would say that left side of the defense is world class.
And Trent?
Trent is not a world class defender. I keep telling you
No,
this.
Yeah,
Trent
but
is a
he's
world class attacking player, but he doesn't play in a midfield or a forward line. He plays in defense, you know. And Liverpool are conceding goals because you don't have a good defender there. It's you don't have to overcomplicate this. Van Dijk is a world-class defender alongside Andy Robertson, who as well is a world-class defender, in my opinion. World-class fullback.
Yeah, but now
Any defender,
hold
on now. Any defender that you put beside Van Dijk, he will instantly improve because Van Dijk is so good. If Van Dijk has an off-season, which he's having this season, it falls to shit because the other two on your right-hand side, whether it be Gomez, now I think Konate is going to be a very good defender. But I think the fact that when Van Dijk doesn't play well, that defense doesn't play well.
Yeah, I do agree there. I do agree. And sorry, when I say world class, I'm not saying like the best 4 defenders in the world. I just mean when they put out their strongest team, they have 4 international defenders there that play for. Do you know they're just?
Well, I think if you take the defense as a whole, I think the call of defense, a world-class defense, comes down to how many goals have you conceded?
Yeah.
And how well are you playing as a unit? You know, you can call Van Dijk class or world-class. You can call Robertson class, Trent class, whoever it may be. As a defense, you're only world-class on the back of your performances and how many goals you concede, you know. And they haven't been that this season, you know.
No, I agree. And I don't think there's any Liverpool fan that'll disagree with you. I think there'll be a lot of disheartened Liverpool fans out there because look, when Liverpool, I'm not saying they didn't spend any money, but when they needed to buy players like midfielders and that, they didn't splash the cash. And as you said on one of your things,
they didn't buy well.
No, but they bought attackers that they needed to buy. Mane left, they had to bring in players, but like they needed midfielders like Henderson, 33. He looked so leggy there against Leicester.
Yeah.
Like, geez, he looked like a League One player that day, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's the one issue. It's, you know, and I'll always hold my hands up and say over the last 5 or 6 years, Liverpool have been absolutely fantastic to watch. As much as it kills me, you know what I mean? They really
probably some of the best football that's been seen in 20 years.
Yeah,
when they were flying it.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think the pace that they played at, the in-your-face style, it reminded me of Liverpool on their own, reminded me of the games that United and Arsenal used to play in the late 90s, early 2000s, where it was just helter-skelter, you know, play off the front foot, you know, score goals, keep clean sheets, bang, 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 you know, and they could do that against a fucking Leicester or a Burnley or something like that and make a game good, you know. But I think the one area that and whether it's Klopp or whether it's the board, because I know they had a strict, you know, rules in relation to what players they brought in and their transfer structure and all of that, but they didn't buy when they were strong. And I think that's 2 seasons ago now, and it's coming back to bite me in the arse now.
I agree there, and I really agree with something that I was watching on your live the other night when you were live, saying that this year's top 4 is massive. Like, if you don't get top 4, it can set you back a year or 2.
Oh, yeah, it can. Really can. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I've been, you know, having a debate with a lot of United fans saying, would you take top 4 or would you take a trophy? Give me top 4 because...
if I was United, to be honest to God, and even if I was Arsenal up there as well, I would have very little thought for that Europa League. Even Arsenal up there. I know it's...
Now, the thing about the Europa League is that you get into the Champions League.
But
you're putting all of your money on black, for example, or red or whatever it is.
Well, you're going to be playing an extra Arsenal last 16, last 8, 4, 6, the extra 7 or 8 games, like, you know, through on Wednesdays or Thursdays and all. I just think with Arsenal, of the teams that are there now, I wouldn't mind seeing Arsenal winning the league. It'd be nice. I think it'd be a bit refreshing of them up the top. Like, realistically, Liverpool are 26 points behind them there. or not 26, 16 points behind them. I would think they're gone too far. Tottenham aren't going to be doing that. And United now, with the right results over the next few days, like maybe in a month's time we'll talk about United again and see what the title push is, you know?
Yeah, look, exactly. And look, again, I try and emphasize this as much as I can when I'm doing the lives, and and you get excited when United, win, because the last 10 years we haven't been putting, a lot of consistent performances together on a run of them. But our next league game is City away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So take everything with a pinch of salt. Now, if we go to the Etihad and get a result, then okay, maybe we can start, getting a little bit excited. But I'm under no illusions that we're in a top 4 race, not a title race. So
yeah, just see how it unfolds. Like,
yeah,
Newcastle are up there.
Most, Ricey, what I love most is what this manager is saying. He's been asked recently, only like yesterday, about a potential, challenging for the title, and he said, "We're not thinking about that. We're thinking about every game as it comes, one game at a time. Get a result, play well, be professional." I love it.
Me with no experience would say that as a manager.
Yeah,
you're asking for trouble if he came out. And if he said,
we're
in the midst of a title race here, he'd be the back page of every paper. He'd lose 3-0 to City. They'd be like questioning him. Does he know
what is this lad on about?
Just one thing to leave it on there, maybe before we go, is I have to give it to Ten Hag. He had that big whole situation with Ronaldo. We're not going to talk about Ronaldo now. We spoke about him enough previously.
Yeah.
I thought he handled that immensely. I don't know what he's done with Rashford, but Rashford seems to be a player of old. I'm not saying he's not a Rashford that we have never seen before, because we all know Rashford can hit a good patch there where he goes on 6 or 7 games and then he can go completely missing again. So look, we'll just take it what it is for the minute. He's flying high now. I'm looking forward to seeing what could potentially happen with Jadon Sancho. I think that was very good management, that he just took him out of the limelight. Wasn't bringing him on there for 10, 15 minutes at the end or starting him in games. He came out straight, said the lad isn't physically or mentally prepared at this current point or in shape to play for Manchester United. So he obviously has him off doing work on the side there. I would imagine Sancho, because Sancho seems like a nice kind of guy.
Yeah.
Sancho's probably taking this on board and saying this is probably best for both my mental and physical health going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's been a masterstroke from Ten Hag. I really do. Take him out, and I'm sure he would have said to him, when I take you out and when I initially tell the press that you're doing your own individual training, there'll be talk for a day or two, but eventually, not that you'll be forgotten about, but the limelight will be off you.
He's doing this because he wants him to have a future at Manchester United. If he didn't care about him, he wouldn't be like...
He would have just let him rot on the bench.
Kind of like what a father does for a son, maybe,
Yeah.
Like, just going forward, like, Sancho is still so young, and I don't know what happened. Maybe the Premier League is just so much more fast-paced than that German league, but, like, the stats he had in that German league, 17 assists in one season, and he had a crazy amount of goals that season too.
Yeah.
You don't do that if you're dirt.
Yeah, and I think maybe it was the transition from going from that to going into a very average United team under Solskjaer.
That's what people have to remember too. It was a bang average, even at times below average team.
Yeah, with a very negative dressing room, very bad atmosphere in the whole club. And I think he's probably just probably still hasn't come to terms with all of that, given the fact that he was ripping it up in Germany. And it can be difficult going from, such highs to such lows in the space of a summer. But the one thing I would say is that I'm in absolutely no hurry to rush him back or to judge him in any way or to say, where the fuck is he or why isn't he back playing with us or anything like that. I think the manager is handling this perfectly. I would question anyone to tell me a scenario that he didn't handle perfectly since he's taken over.
Yeah, look, I don't know the ins and outs of United like you do, but from the offset, he seemed to come across pretty well. He's had to be honest, until I started doing a bit of research for this today, I wasn't even aware, to be honest, that United were doing so well.
Yeah, just
Like,
going
and
under
I
the
know
radar, doing our thing, right?
it is kind of though, because I'm a football
Yeah.
fan, a football fanatic, kind of like I'd watch a lot of games. I'd follow the Premier League, like, but like they're just slowly creeping up there. But I think
Yeah.
from mistakes you've made before, you're not going to shout your mouth and run your mouth now saying we're in a title race, because you would have done this at times before. And as you said, look, your next game at City, if you can get a result there, well and good. But if you lost 3-0 there, you're like, right, we're making steps, but we're not at that level yet.
Yeah. Let's concentrate on the top 4. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Let's not get
exactly.
carried away here.
But if you could
know.
go out, like, if he could go to City in a week's time, or you have FA Cup and League Cup, I think, in between, do you?
Yeah, that's right.
If he could go to City in 2 weeks' time, and if he could spring a win in the Etihad, like, I'm not even saying then there's a title challenge on, because you do have to understand you need that whole squad depth to gather together. Like, as Gary Neville said on Sky Sports last night, he said we're 4 or 5 games behind where we normally would be at this time of the season.
Yeah.
Do you know, due to the World Cup going on? So due to the World going, like, normally at this time of the season, there'll be 21, 22 games played. 4 or 5 extra games is massive.
Huge. Yeah, really is.
If United had bad 4 or 5 games, they could be down in 7th. If they had an excellent 4 or 5 games, they could be up in 2nd.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, that's the kind of dilemma that we're in at the moment, and I think that's why Ten Hag is trying to push this narrative of one game at a time. Don't get carried away. You know, just keep it safe, keep it smooth, stay professional. Just before we go, how are Sunderland getting on?
Sunderland are doing well. They're after losing a striker now back to Everton, a lad, Ellis Sims. He's doing all right. He had 5 or 6 goals this season. They're just outside the playoff spots. But look, they're doing well for this season anyway. Like, as of getting promoted last season, the main objective this season would have been
to stay in the division.
Yeah, that'd be your lowest point, you know, but you would have wanted to do better than just staying up. But like, they would definitely would have thought that playoffs was beyond the reach. And look, it's only the halfway point now, but Sunderland did lose their manager after 6 games this season when they were doing well. Alex Neil went to Stoke. So they got Tony Mowbray in, but look, he's doing very well, and it's
never know. Maybe a playoff charge second half of the season.
Maybe it's a hell of a lot better than being in League One.
Damn right it is, man. Damn right it is. Anyway, look, we'll leave it there. Ricey, man, I really appreciate it as always. And everyone else who's been involved in the chat, in the comments, thanks for watching. Thanks for getting involved. If you're listening back to this at any stage on Spotify or wherever you're listening, please do give it a 5-star review. Helps out the podcast an awful lot. I'll be back myself for the watch along on Friday for United and Everton in the FA Cup. But again, until then, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you soon.
See ya.